The Dark Agenda. The following reading comes from Chapter 4 of The Great Awakening, What the Spirit Guides Say. As follows.
Power, money and control are absolutely, 100% what certain people in this world want. They do not care about public health. Nor do they care about the climate, pollution, the rainforests or anything else. Unless it impacts on their personal lives. They do not care if their policies hurt the average person in any way, physically, emotionally, or mentally. Nor do they care if their policies cause the premature departure from Earth of the average person. No matter whether such people die from hypothermia, starvation, obesity, suicide, disease, or the side effects of drugs, whether prescription or recreational, or the effects of a genuine or so-called vaccine. Then, of course, there are those who die because of some conflict or war they have caused. And those they have murdered for having the affront to discover a cure for some disease, or find some alternative, more or less, free source of energy. It is obvious that not everyone who is playing along for personal gain with the policies and recommendations of the Dark Agenda is evil or desires the power to totally dominate and control society. Most of the foot soldiers are such as corporation executives, politicians, and others who help to direct political and corporate decisions. No doubt most, or at least many of them, feel secure and that what is planned to unfold will not affect them. That they are doing all right, financially, so will be above and beyond all harm, physically or material. Then there are those who are concerned, deeply concerned in some cases, about what is unfolding. For instance, some of the doctors and nurses who are on the front line of potential abuse and blame, having been so often left with the choice of two evils. To either go along with what they were instructed to do, or to resign or be sacked if they didn't. Or if they spoke out about their concerns. It is of course easy for some of us to say that those with concerns about giving jabs or the medical protocols they were told to follow, should have spoken out even when it was sure to cost them their jobs. Ideally they should have. But can anyone blame some younger person who perhaps has a mortgage and a young family that would suffer as a result? When so many of their colleagues were saying nothing, remaining silent. And those in management giving orders that must be obeyed, remained in the shadows. Whose orders were they obeying? I will not be attempting to comment on all that is, and could be, on the agenda of those who are often referred to as globalists or the elite, in the materialistic sense. Those behind the big corporations who, effectively at least, run most and probably all of the world institutions and organizations that on the surface may seem to work for the betterment of humanity when, in fact, one delves into the structure and nature of such institutions and organizations, they find that they work for the elite globalists who are hell-bent on controlling every facet of human life. Basically, these people are following a fascist agenda with, as I have said, no more care for the average person than the Nazi regime had for those they chose to persecute and kill. The Jewish, Gypsies, and basically any ethnic minority they took a dislike to, which was probably all ethnic minorities, along with anyone who did not measure up to their Aryan race ideal or obey orders. This included any courageous German citizen who spoke against the Nazi regime, propaganda, and agenda. These German people were also censored, silenced, or arrested and eventually, in some cases, murdered. Does this remind anyone of recent times? It should do. Oh, and let us not forget that the Nazis controlled the German media at that time, and it was through the media, newspapers and cinema newsreels etc., that the population were effectively brainwashed by the repetitive bombardment of propaganda that convinced so many to hate, and in this case it was mostly those of the Jewish faith, who were the selected target. Who controls the media these days? It is the globalists. They own most newspapers, so the free press, in the main, no longer exist. They are not free to publish or say anything that goes against or undermines the dark agenda.
Next. The following comes from Chapter 5, Truth Tellers on Earth. As follows.
I was born in 1950 and grew up playing games on the streets of Putney, London. This included many a daredevil game on a bomb site, and many of these sites remained into the late 50s and 60s before being cleared and built upon. These were bomb sites where houses, people's homes, stood for in some cases many decades before the Luftwaffe, the Nazi Air Force planes, dropped thousands of bombs on London, and many other cities and areas of the UK, hitting and destroying homes in which many people lost their lives. Prior to my birth, during 1939–45, my father had spent 6 years in the army helping to overcome the fascism of Nazi Germany under Adolf Hitler, Italy under Benito Mussolini, and Japan under the Emperor Showa or Hirohito. These days, it seems, most politicians are openly keen to embrace fascism once more. But this time it isn't the fascism of the 1, 2 or 3 nations, but the fascism supported by the majority of governments worldwide. Are the current politicians, who support globalist corporations, the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, the United Nations, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization and numerous other organizations evil, insane or perhaps just naive or gullible, or simply self-serving greedy, morally corrupt, and spiritually ignorant individuals? It could of course be a mix of all the aforementioned. Despite the countless documentaries and films still doing the rounds that show us how heroic, honorable and self-sacrificing our forefathers were, and how evil the fascist dictators were, the current crop seem to have learned nothing from history. One thing they should have learned is that in the long term evil is always overcome, defeated, or it self-destructs. After all, where can it go? Once the poor own nothing and the fascist evil elite own everything, control everything, and eliminate all they feel are worthless or non-productive or simply surplus to requirements, what will they do then?
Thank you for listening. Much more can be found in the book itself.